Today's episode of the WAC podcast is brought to you by Hercules Tires, the official tire of the Western Athletic Conference. Now here are your hosts, Eric Danner and Rachel Vigil.
Welcome back to the WAC podcast. Eric Danner and Rachel Vigil. We are now joined by James Miller, the associate head coach for men's basketball at New Mexico State. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, obviously you guys have been in the news quite a bit the past week. I mean, New Mexico with all kinds of COVID restrictions, basically forcing your team to look elsewhere to practice and play. We heard when we did the podcast last week, we heard Phoenix, we heard Tucson, we heard Las Vegas. You guys landed on Phoenix. Tell us what went behind the decision to move the team to Phoenix, at least temporarily.
Well, like you mentioned, obviously with the restrictions of the state of New Mexico, it wasn't going to be possible for us to play and practice, and so had to make a relocation. And so going into that decision, the cities you mentioned, along with El Paso, were kind of the four we kind of really focused on, and then came to Phoenix last week. Was Sunday. Myself and Bron Cartwright, our deputy AD, and then Zach Witherspoon, our strength coach, got on a little plane and flew to Las Vegas and looked at 3 different places, and then looked at 3 different places in Phoenix, and came upon the Arizona Grand as kind of the best choice for us. And it's a great setup for our guys because they don't have to leave the campus. It's a very big resort, and they were able to set up a ballroom with a court in it. So our guys have 24 access to the court where just our guys can use it. And so, it's been a whirlwind, to say the least, the last week. But it's kind of par for the course with how the last 6-7 months have gone.
How much like a bubble is being there? I mean, so the NBA obviously had their bubble. No one could go in and out. You're pretty much just secluded. So how much like a bubble is it?
I think it's probably as close to a bubble as you can get at the college level. Basically there's restaurants on site. We have our own team room that only us can use. We have our own conference room for video. We're kind of secluded where the resort's a little bit off a main strip. So they don't have to leave for anything. We've gotten meals catered in or DoorDash, those types of things to try to alleviate anybody having to leave. And so it's been really rare for people to leave outside of going to get grocery pickups, those types of things as far as our staff. For the guys, they haven't had to leave at all. It's about as bubble as you can get, I would say, at the college level.
We're talking with associate head coach James Miller from New Mexico State. Coach, in that bubble or quasi-bubble, I mean, are you allowed to have your family? I mean, obviously it's Thanksgiving week. Players and coaches probably want to see at least some family or friends. Is that allowed in this situation?
Yeah, we're working through all the details of what that's going to look like. But yeah, I mean, we all have families. Some of us have kids and little ones, and so I think kind of in the infancy stages of figuring out how to do it. I think they're going to have to be tested a couple of times in order to come, and then they would be tested just like the team when they're here, just to give us the best chance to not run into any COVID issues and run into any stoppages or pause for us, so that we can continue to play games.
What's the testing protocol like for you and the team?
So it's been the same for us the last month. We've been tested 3 times a week, PCR, at home, and then we'll continue to do the same thing now that we're into the season, because that's what the NCAA requires. But you see that a lot of teams have been shut down, especially the last couple of days, and that's because it's gone from 1 time a week with 25% of your program to now everybody's going 3 times a week. So fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, everybody's now testing positive because everybody's getting tested, and most people are asymptomatic. So it's the same protocol as we've been doing, and it's no different for us. And knock on wood, hopefully that's why we can continue to stay COVID free.
Now, as far as the setup there, Coach, we've seen some pictures. You guys are at the Arizona Grand. They've set up a ballroom for you guys to practice in, very similar to what we saw with the NBA teams in Orlando. So tell us what the facilities are like there.
Oh, the facilities here are top notch. So yeah, like you call it, we're in a ballroom. They've installed a college length floor with hoops in there. Our guys have 24-hour access to that. They just have a key card where they can just swipe and get in there, get shots up, workout, etc. And then we have a weight room on the facility here at the resort. And because of COVID, it's very quiet here Monday through Friday. You know, Friday afternoons, there's a couple other courts on this campus where they host AAU events. And so Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday, it's a little bit more, a little bit more action taking place on the resort. But Monday through Friday, especially afternoon, it's very quiet. So we have our own access to a weight room facility that's really nice. It's probably the nicest hotel weight room I've ever seen. It's 4 different. It's like a resort. It's a resort, and you don't ever have to leave, which is nice for us. And then the meeting space that we have access to and they've given us has been great. A couple of different places, and the rooms are a resort timeshare-ish type rooms, so they're not just the typical hotel rooms. You really have kind of 2 separate living spaces in each of the rooms, which allows our guys not to be on top of each other and to have their own space. So from the amenity standpoint, it's as good as it can get, I think.
I don't think you probably know this, Coach, but I was in the bubble with the MLS down or in Orlando back in July. Seems like so long ago now. But my only complaint when I was down there was that I was eating chicken and salmon for every single meal. So for you guys, how are you getting food? Can you choose what you want at the restaurant, or is it kind of like a buffet line that you have to go down and you have the same meals all the time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. With Zach Witherspoon, our strength coach, he's kind of responsible for setting up all the meals with some help of some others. But for breakfast, it's kind of like the continental breakfast setup. You have all the bagels and yogurts and cereals and all that stuff. But there's enough variance where our guys, not a week into it, have complained quite yet. And then for lunch and dinner and then snacks, Zach's tried to really change it up and have 2 or 3 different options for each meal. And like you said, try to get some variation, because obviously we might be in this thing for the long haul, and they don't want to eat chicken every single meal. They don't want to eat salmon every meal, like you said. And so we've already had a couple of those too. But it's been fine so far. And like anything, we're all going to get tired of kind of eating out. It's just the reality of the situation. But at the same time, our guys are eating good and living pretty good. So I think, they know it's a blessing. I mean, they really do. They understand that, and they're just thankful to be able to play.
With James
you hate
Miller
it when you're down there. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead,
You
Rach.
hate it when you're down there and then you come home and you have to cook again and you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to cook. Like, I'd rather somebody just cook for me.
Yeah, and our guys aren't cooking anything. They're just going to go get another bagel or get a bowl of cereal if they don't like what's being served. But so far, Zach's knocking it out of the park so far. So knock on wood, hopefully he can keep doing that.
Talking with James Miller, and James, last week we saw Mario Mocha gave a press conference to announce that you guys were moving to Phoenix, and he got emotional during the press conference, rightfully so. I mean, imagine it's been taxing on everybody at New Mexico State trying to figure out how to get this done, and also you want to honor those commitments you made, as Mario said, to your players. You made a commitment for them to play at your university, and you're doing whatever you can. So I got to imagine it's been taxing kind of on everybody there.
Yeah, it's funny. I did an interview with a radio station last week, and they asked to describe the last couple of months, and I said it's been like a roller coaster. And then and then the same person that interviewed Coach Jans a week or 2 before that, and I hadn't heard that interview, and Coach said the exact same thing. And I think with the emotion you saw from Mario, that's what it's been. It's been a lot of peaks and valleys, and it's been a roller coaster. Every time we feel like we kind of have some structure and a schedule to what we can plan for, it's changed. And that's hard with young men and us with families. And, we're trying to run a program and trying to do the best we can to give our guys the answers that they're, questions they're asking. And oftentimes we haven't had answers, and that's very difficult. So what you saw from Mario, I think is a direct correlation to how we've all felt. It's been stressful. It's been a roller coaster. It's been very hard. But with guys like Mario and our president, our chancellor, and Brian Cartwright, our deputy AD, the support they've given us to where we never felt like the season was in jeopardy, like a lot of schools right now, it has obviously been second to none. So what you see from Mario is his hard work paying off, and say, hey, you know what? We'd rather play in the Pan Am and Las Cruces, but if we have to go to the Arizona Grand and figure it out from there, that's the next best scenario. We'll work with it. So, that's what it's been. And it's been that way for the last couple of months, the last 7 months, 8 months now. But for sure, the last couple of months as the season's got a little bit closer to us.
You mentioned that these are young men. How have you seen the maturity of them step up in the last couple of months and even weeks?
You know what? They really have stepped up because just like all of us, we want to know, okay, what time is practice tomorrow? Okay, where are we going to play games? Okay, are we going to be able to practice? Okay, how's this going to look? Where are we going to go live? And so our guys have really had to uproot their lives, not only moving to Arizona, but in the few weeks prior to that, when we kind of put them in a bubble on campus and they were living in houses on campus and getting tested 3 times a week and meals delivered to them. And they've gone from being a traditional college student or student athlete to functioning like they're in the NBA bubble in a lot of ways, and that's tough. They have dogs, they have families, and so they've handled it as well as I think they could have handled it. They've kind of gone with the flow as good as anybody and we could ask for. And again, it goes back to, like all of us that love basketball or whatever sport we've played or been around, they just want to play. They want to be a part of a team. They want to practice every day. They want to get yelled at from time to time, and they want to play. And so now them knowing that this is the way we're going to have to go about doing it, they've been accepting of it. And I think they think of it as a positive too, because they really do have a nice place to stay right now. They do have, good amenities with access to, and, our day off yesterday, there's a water park at the facility. So we're in the water park, staying away from everybody, social distancing for sure. But, just like trying to, again, create and keep our own bubble. But at the same time, they've been very mature at how they've handled it.
Well, Coach Miller, the other challenge I guess you guys have as a coaching staff is not only trying to figure out, okay, where are we going to practice, who are we going to play, but also integrating new players into the program. And you have a number of new players that transferred in or freshmen, what have you. How have you been able to work with the team? How much have you been able to work with them the past couple of weeks?
Well, the past couple of weeks trying to integrate those new guys has been difficult because we've been limited in what we could do from the standpoint of not having more than 5 guys on the floor at the same time. So we've got a lot of 5-on-0 taking place, just as far as, dummy offense, dummy defense, trying to make sure we understand what play this is and where we need to be for here defensively. But you and I both know it's really hard to get that experience when you're not competing against each other 5-on-5. And so it's been difficult. Again, they've done as good a job as we could ask for. But here, with the season starting in a few days, it's difficult to really have a great gauge of where we're at because we haven't been able to compete like we're accustomed to. And then you throw on top of it, didn't have a traditional summer and early part of the fall with workouts because of the COVID. So, I think Coach Jans has said it many times, and we're all aware in our program that that's not going to be a good excuse for us. We're going to continue to go about our business the way with the expectations that we've had, set forth and what Coach has done here. So, but at the same time, realistically, it's been challenging. So the new guys have been great at picking other guys' brains that have been around here. The guys who have been around have been great in trying to help them even more than usual. And I think that speaks to the culture that the program has because we all understand the expectations and the level that we're accustomed to winning at and wanting to try to continue to do the same thing this year.
You mentioned the season opening up here in just a few short days. So on Friday you play Arizona Christian. How anxious is the team to actually play somebody else?
Very anxious. I think we're all excited. We're tired of seeing each other. We're tired of, practicing against each other. Again, we scrimmaged the other day against ourselves, and we hadn't done that very often. So even then, it was almost like game day as we were preparing and kind of having a mock shoot around and things like that. So we're really excited to play against Arizona Christian in here the next couple of weeks, and that'll be a good test for us because they're a good team. They'll give us a great look, and it'll be a challenge for us, especially going to their place, which Division I schools don't typically do. But because of the uniqueness of our situation, it was a perfect fit, both from the schedule standpoint and facility and those types of things. So our guys are pumped. They're just, like I told you, they're just excited to be playing. They're just excited. We haven't played since March, and the way it ended for us was tough, just like everybody else. But we felt like we were really playing great basketball at the end. So now coming down to it, we want to try to keep that train rolling in that direction.
And that game's going to be on Fox Sports Arizona and also Comcast in the Las Cruces area. And we're also going to pick that game up on the WAC Digital Network. So we are anxious to see the new look New Mexico State Aggies this Friday. Coach, I know as an assistant, you have all kinds of responsibilities as far as scheduling goes. Are you in on that? And what does it look like maybe for, you have any other games coming down the pike here with, you just have the Arizona Christian game right now. I imagine you're probably working on several others before we get to conference play in January.
Yeah, we have one other contract out for an early game next week. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday, the 1st. I don't even know what day that is at this point. And then, we have a couple others in the works where we feel like we'll lock them in here pretty quick. So, we've all kind of been in scheduling quite a bit because of the uniqueness of the situation. And I've done a lot of the scheduling and trying to work through that. And you just have to picture it like this. We typically play at UTEP and New Mexico twice. So those games are up in the air because of obvious New Mexico doesn't know where they're going to be playing, nor do we to a certain extent. And El Paso typically is a 30-minute road trip for us when we play them both ways. And now we're talking about, okay, how can we try to get these games in? And then we had another tournament we were going to play in the Sun Bowl at El Paso where we were going to kind of be the neutral site team, and that was canceled last week. So from last Sunday to now, we've lost 6 games on our schedule. And really, like I told Coach, it's probably best for us just to blow this thing up and start from scratch. And that's what we've done. So we're trying to get as many games in. We can get up to 11 before we start the league, or even, within the league, get non-conference games. And so basically we're trying to fill out a schedule of 10 or 11 games and trying to build that out on the fly. And so it's been challenging. Obviously uniqueness with COVID and in the circumstances, it's going to open up games where literally we're almost on call to an extent, and we're going to have to be ready to go and get on a plane or drive somewhere with probably a 24, 48-hour notice because certain opponents have canceled because they couldn't make the trip. And that's just kind of where we're at with it. So thankfully, I think we're making some headway on it. And here the next 5 or 6 days, we envision locking up at least a couple more games outside of the one early next week. And then we're kind of on call for the rest and working towards filling in some neutral site games and dates come later December, since we have a couple of weeks to kind of work around that.
Well, Coach, we'll look forward to hopefully seeing the rest of that schedule very soon. An undrafted free agent, I guess now he's signed with the Houston Rockets, Trev Queen. What makes him, or what personality traits about him will have him succeed in the NBA?
Rachel, he really loves the game of basketball, which I know it sounds corny, but he really loves the game of basketball. I mean, he lives and breathes basketball. And I think when you get to our level and then you get to the NBA, those guys who love the game, who are always working on improving their game and their craft and don't have distractions, and they just have blinders to keep going and staying within the lanes and continue to work and work and work and work. And that's Trev. His work ethic will give him a chance. Obviously, he has the ability to score and play defense and, get in passing lane. I mean, there's a lot of things he does from a basketball standpoint. But his mentality, how motivated he is, how much he loves the game, it truly drives him. And so I think with that drive, he's going to do whatever it takes to try to stick with the Rockets. And so hopefully, obviously, we're all rooting for him. And, like we said, hey, he didn't get drafted, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. If you get drafted and you don't produce, you're not going to be there. So you didn't get drafted, and guess what? Now you have your chance. And that's all he wanted, and that's all any of us were hoping for. He gets a chance to go and compete. And I think over the course of the last couple of years and looking at his growth, he understands the importance of competition and competing. And so, hey, we're rooting for him. And I think with that drive, hopefully he can stick.
Coach Miller, last thing for me, you were named top assistant in the WAC along with Jay Stedman from UTRGV by Jeff Goodman from Stadium Sports. I know a lot of times assistant coaches don't get awards and a lot of recognition, so that has to make you feel pretty good. Yeah,
it does. I mean, to me, it means that I've worked for great people that have helped mentor me and shape me and mold me into who I am as an assistant coach, and work with great people, because I work with two guys, Corey Barker and Dave Anwar, who are just as good, if not better than me. So it's great to have the peers, say, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. He does a good job. But at the same time, I also am very realistic to know that it's because we have great players. It's because I work with great people, and I work for a person that allows me and Coach Jans to try to do the best things to my ability. And so, yeah, it feels good. because like you said, typically assistants don't get much recognition, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. It doesn't really bother me at all. But I like to pour into the guys, and I'm just excited because I think that recognizes, okay, yeah, I do a good job, but more so, it recognizes that we have a great program and recognizes that we have other great people here on the staff, because it's just like anything. Coach is an unbelievable coach, but he will be the first to tell you his staff has a lot to do with our culture and our success of the program. Obviously, he's the head of the snake, and he's amazing at what he does, but he also understands that the good people we have in our program, it makes it go. So it was exciting. It definitely is a feather in the cap, I guess, as people would say.
Coach, you can see just the energy it lights up with you when you talk about this program. What's your favorite part of your job?
Most days dealing with the guys, most days, but it's the relationships you build with the players, and relationships you build with people on our staff, and just seeing guys like Trevel and Queen go on and have a chance after they've gotten their degree here from New Mexico State to go on and have a chance to be an NBA player. That's what they all come here to do. They want to win. They want to learn how to compete. They want to be coached hard by the staff. And then once they get their degree, they want to play professional basketball. So I think, like anybody who has a servant type leadership approach and mindset, you want to pour into those guys, and then you want to see things like that with Trev, where, hey, you got a chance now, man. Like you always say, you want to be a pro. Here's your chance. Now it's up to you. We've given you all the tools to help putting you in that situation, and now you're there. So, there's a lot of things I love about this program. I love working for Coach. I love feeling like we're going to win a lot of games. But at the end of the day, I love our guys. They're good guys who really have the right approach. And like going back to how this has been the last couple of months, they've handled it great. And I think that's a tribute to them and the culture that we have.
Well, Coach Miller, want to thank you for taking some time out. Good luck to you this year. We look forward to seeing the team on Friday, and hopefully you won't be in Phoenix too long and can get back to Las Cruces and get back to normalcy somewhat here in the near future.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that is James Miller, Associate Head Coach at New Mexico State. When we come back, we're going to have Rachel's interview with Ane Oleda from California Baptist. You're listening to the WAC Podcast.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website at wacsports.com.